Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. For those of you who don't know this brilliant human, Mel Abrahams is the founder of Business Breakthrough Academy and Thoughtpreneur Academy. He's a mentor, author, keynote speaker, and proud husband and father and dog dad. Matt and I have had the honor of meeting him in a mastermind last year and seeing him speak at Brendon Burchard's Growth Day Live event. As accomplished as he is and continues to be, one of his greatest superpowers is how digestible he makes everything he teaches. It doesn't matter what stage of entrepreneurship you're in or phase of financial literacy you've accomplished so far. One of his many strengths is to equip you with everything you need to propel yourself forward. And he's also just a really awesome guy. Mel, welcome to the show.
Oh my God, so good to be here.
I'm so happy to have you here, and thank you so much for carving out some time in your busy schedule to be here in Newport at DreamX Studios in person together.
Just to get a chance to do it in person, it's like kind of cool.
It's my new favorite thing, and I'm a young podcaster. I have my podcast manager here in the studio as well, Christina Bartold, and Matt Aruda, special guest, live audience. It's kind of fun. We get a live audience. Woo! And I can see why people really enjoy the in-person, that I get to gaze into your eyes and just really connect on what we're talking about. Yeah. And it's a real joy. So thank you so much for being here.
So cool. We
have a lot of things to chat about, and I have my notes here.
Oh my God.
I'm excited to dive into. We have your new book here, which we are absolutely going to jump over to. But for anyone listening that is not really familiar with your journey, your entrepreneurial journey, what is it that really sparked you to become an entrepreneur?
Well, so the first inkling of entrepreneurship was when I was really young. I was 11 years old. It was at 10 years old, I watched a movie with my dad, with Tony Curtis and Janet Leigh, about the life of Harry Houdini. And I got fascinated with this guy that, like, no boxes, no chains could hold. So I just started studying him. And then I got fascinated with magic. And so literally during the summer, you wouldn't do this with your kids anymore today, I would literally take the bus across the valley to a magic shop every day during the summer and just hang there for a day and learn. And some guy comes in and he says, he's talking to the guy and he says something about a gig. Like, I had no idea. And so he leaves, and I'm talking to him. I said, what's a gig? He says, oh, he does magic, and he gets paid. He does these shows. I said, you can get paid to do this? And he said, yeah. I went right home. I put together a half-hour magic act and decided that I was going to go and do magic shows for kids' birthday parties. And so here I was, 11 years old, it's going to date me, but in 1972, I was getting paid $50 for a half an hour to do a magic show.
That's good money.
It was really good money. I don't even know if I shouldn't say it, but I don't know that I filed tax returns. I don't know. That's the CPA me coming out for a moment. Sorry. It was, but here's the spark that I realized that, wait a second, you can do something you love. You can have a positive impact on someone's life, whether it's bringing happiness, joy, this and that, and get paid for it. And I thought, oh, this is cool. And I think that was the spark that just kind of sat with me as a child, that as I grew, I always knew that I wanted to do something on my own, primarily because I'm not a rule follower. And so somehow, some way I was going to come back to it. But the initial spark was 11 years old.
That's amazing. And here you are all these years later. You've had this incredible career. Yeah. You are an author. And that is actually one of the directions I want to kind of move into first, is about your previous book, The Entrepreneur's Solution, which I had originally bought for Matt. I think it was last year I put it in his stocking.
Did you really?
Yeah. And
My book's a stocking
yeah,
stuffer?
oh yeah, it was
so good.
It was the first stocking stuffer that I had. And the timing of this must have been after we got to meet and connect with you at Chris's Roundtable Mastermind, which ironically is where I met Christina Bartold, now one of our really great friends who's in the live audience today. And that book, The Entrepreneur Solution, was such a game changer for both of us that Matt read it, and probably a few chapters in, I asked him, can you give me some feedback? Like, is this an alley book? Like, knowing that it is more on the financial direction versus, manifesting in the universe from a personal development standpoint, I wanted to know, like, how does this fit on the alley book scale? And Matt said right away that you'll love it. And I read it this past year, and I think I read it in maybe 4 days.
Wow.
And I am a mean highlighter when it comes to books that I love. That it's always pink highlighter, and there is a lot of pink highlighter. And that book provided so much value for both Matt and myself, and conversations that we've had just more from an individual side, but also in our business. And I have a few questions that I would love to sort of dive into specific to the Entrepreneur Solution.
Cool.
And some different
do
areas.
you know that seeing a highlighted book with pages folded over just warms an author's heart?
Does it?
Oh my God.
Yeah. What's the biggest win as an author?
Well, here's the thing, and this is the thing that I realized. Someone buys a book, that's good, okay. Someone reads a book, all right. It's about getting people to do the books. And when they do the book, their life changes, because there's so much in the book, if it's done right, that can shift. And so when I see something that's highlighted, that is dog-eared and everything, for me, at least, I've never written a book for the purpose of making money. That wasn't the motivation. The motivation was always, and in fact, that book was actually initially a journal and a manual that I wrote to my son after a bike accident. And then when someone else read it, they said, "Oh, you got to publish this." So we turned it into a book. And so I think just seeing it come to life in other people's lives is probably the biggest compliment for an author, because then all the effort, all the work meant something.
It is a spectacular book, and there was also many pages that are dog-eared as well. And it's also a book that I've shared with other people. Now social media, it's so easy to share. You get an Amazon affiliate link. You want to make, 18 cents on sharing a recommendation. Awesome. But it's also a book that I've recommended to friends that, I think you would really like this. So you should buy this book. I can't lend you my book because there's way too many parts highlighted, and so it's like a cheat code for the book. So you have to read it and experience it for yourself. And even over these last few years where Matt and I have invested in rooms and learning from people like yourself that have been doing things longer, better, and are paving the way for us to follow and learn from, I've really come to understand that buying books, let's call it $30, is sort of what your investment is. It's a low ticket investment to provide value to someone else that has invested a lot of time, money, energy to put all of their learnings and teachings into pages, and that it is such a easy thing for us to do and share in a way to provide value and that positive energy and relationship capital. And that's something that we share often on the Inspire and Move podcast, is a way to get into those communities, the people that you want to be around.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right, so my first bucket from the Entrepreneur Solution, my first question, is in the chapter that was all about collaboration, which is something that I'm really passionate about, both for my Inspire and Move community, but for our gym, Benchmark Fitness, we're really about community, collaboration. And I actually loved that there was an entire chapter about this, broken down between colleagues, customers, and companies. And you say, influence is the impact we have on others. How do you believe we become a person of influence? And what habits and daily rituals does a person of influence have?
How do we become a person of influence? I actually think it's being real. It's being real, and it's being present. It's not, because in fact I was doing a keynote for a bunch of attorneys once, and I used the term influencer, and they didn't get it, because in their eyes that meant they were manipulating. But to collaborate, to influence isn't to manipulate, because that there's some underhandedness there. I think it's about being real. It's about being present with someone and also allowing them to see, because the strongest element of influence is when they come to the realization themselves. So all I'm trying to do in a situation, whether it was me testifying in front of a jury, which I did as an expert witness, or negotiating a deal, or speaking, is to try and light a way where first I'm real and they say, I trust him or her. So there's trust there that allows them to put their guard down and believe, and then to show them the possibilities of what can happen or what they do. And all of a sudden, they make the choice on their own. So it's not about manipulation. And I've said this before from the stage, where I'm there to sell, and I say, I actually don't care if you buy or not. What I care about is that all the questions in your heart, your soul, and your mind are answered, because then you'll make the right decision. And I'm okay with that. What I don't want is, I want people at the red light. I want people at the green light. I don't want anyone at the yellow light. It's the most dangerous place in the intersection, is the yellow light, because there's indecision. There's not knowing. There isn't knowledge. There's no clarity. My job as an influencer or someone doing something like that is to give clarity, no matter what side of the road they're on, and allow it to happen from that perspective.
I think it's an incredible perspective. And I think in this present day that we hear a lot about being an influencer.
Yeah.
And it is easy, I think, for people to get skewed of what that means. And there's a drastic difference between being an influencer and being a person of influence, and what stems from being a person of influence. Because I feel like that is very positive, that they are someone that's paved the way. They are making really responsible, great decisions and doing things from an authentic place.
Yeah.
How they can provide value. So what is something, or what are some traits, whether it be for yourself, but even with some of your peers in this space, that makes a person of influence from daily rituals and habits?
So one of the things that I say is really important is to realize that as much as we grow up, we say, communication's a two-way street. It's actually not. It's a one-way street. I have to be fully responsible for how my message comes across. And I can blame the other person, say, well, they're not smart enough, or they're not, But no, I didn't communicate it in a way that allowed them to understand it, that allowed them to come to that place. So I think one of the first things that, from a trait standpoint or a desire standpoint, is making the skill of communication a priority. Now, I'm a CPA. I'm a left brain. You're supposed to be behind the desk and just ticking in time and using a calculator, not communicating. But I found out really quickly that that's wonderful. Sorry about that. That communication is actually the most powerful skill we can nurture, that we can build. Because if you think about whatever's going on in society, whatever's going on in our world, whatever's going on in our relationships, that skill of communication is the key to solving it. Because if we can't talk about it, we're not going to solve it. If we can't communicate about it, we're not going to solve it. So I look at things and say to myself, from a ritual standpoint or from a priority standpoint, is how can I communicate more effectively? And I'm willing to take classes. I've taken presentation classes. I've taken communication classes because I need to learn. Sometimes it doesn't come naturally, or I didn't take it as a priority until I realized how important it was. Then from a morning ritual standpoint, I think that one of the things that I do, so I get up early.
Like how early?
Like 4:15.
Okay, that's earlier than me. We're early. We're like a 5:15.
Yeah. 4:15. I spend till about 5 o'clock in the morning, just myself and my dog, thinking with gratitude, writing, and just reconnecting with my values and everything and what the day's going to be like, I then take off and I go to the gym.
Okay.
And I'm at the gym for probably 75 to 90 minutes, come back, and then me and the dogs are on the beach for 45 minutes.
Oh, great stuff.
So we sit back, and that's my gratitude walk, where I'm looking at the beauty of the beach, the power of it. And it's usually at a time when it's just me and the dogs and the beach. There might be a fisherman or something there, and that's it. So we've got the run of it. But all of it is to reconnect to what is important to me, what is important for the day, what's important to the people that I'm gonna connect with today. I also will decide 2 to 3 people that day to just send a voice note to. And depending on where they are in the world and the time difference, I'll do it right from the beach and just send them hey, I'm just thinking about you today, and just, so I think that just by starting the day that way, you re-anchor to yourself to being present with others with gratitude in your heart, and now I can go serve. And so and I think communication, the desire to communicate and influence people comes from caring. Now, if we're going to manipulate, that's different. But I want to move someone to a place that's better for them. I got to care about them first. I got to care about their journey.
People feel that.
Yeah.
They can feel that. People are smart.
Yeah.
They can read your energy. They can feel when you care. And I feel like there are a lot of exceptional leaders like an Ed Milet, Brendon Bouchard, that speak from their stages or in their podcast messages as well about the power that comes from being of service. When you lead with that, to your point, caring, leading from the heart, but also being of service and seeing the magic that unfolds and not having any expectations, that you're naturally also providing value.
Yeah.
Which is actually a beautiful foray, because that was another part of your book that really stuck out was value, and the chapter that you spoke to about value. And that was a big takeaway when Matt and I got to meet you for the first time at Chris's very first roundtable.
Was it really?
It was his first one. And
I crashed that.
Yeah, it was. Hey, you're a good party crasher. I'm so glad you did. And we went in very specifically with a goal with our gym and workshopped that in the roundtable. We had some really expansive offline conversations with you and Chris, and we went home and we rolled up our sleeves and got to work. It actually came with a lot of investments for our space in terms of physical changes, equipment, but we had our big goal in mind, but then our real North Star was how we could provide more value to our community and their experience at our gym. And what you were saying earlier about the compliment to an author about highlighting and turning down pages. One of the best compliments we can receive, and I'm a words of affirmation person, so feedback like this means a lot. We had someone in our community compliment us in the sense of, she's recognized that I can recognize how much value that you guys weren't thinking about. How can we make more money? It was more in the frame of how can we provide more value to our community. And I really love that, how you included that in your book, and it was a very relatable part of our big up level last year. And you speak to how at some point a business has to transition from profits into purpose, and that more benefits rise from the latter. Can you please elaborate on this?
Look, a business has to survive, so you need the profits, you need the cash flow, but the profits are actually the byproduct of the purpose and the value we create. The fact is, and this is a challenge for entrepreneurs, and especially entrepreneurs like myself, who came from a world of, hey, you have a timesheet, we're going to bill hours, so or 0.6 of an hour or whatever it is, you're going to bill it. You're commoditizing what you do. People aren't buying your hours. People aren't even buying the product. They're buying the value of the solution. And when that solution is commoditized, we don't get paid our worth. And one of the first things that a lot of entrepreneurs miss, or even individuals, whether they're in a job, I say this on some of the lives that I've done recently, is saying, are you owning your value of what you bring to the table? Because now I look at it and I say, what's our purpose? And I think of one of my clients. Used to be a client, not a client because they sold out. They didn't sell out. That sounded horrible.
Yeah.
They sold.
Woo! That's a yay. Like
yeah, that's a great. They sold. It was Cliff Bar. They got sold for like $1.2 billion.
That totally gets a woo.
Yeah.
Yeah, big woo.
And 20% of that company was owned by the employees. So
wow.
they got their share of it too.
Also woo.
Yeah. And this is a guy, Gary Erickson, who founded it, walked away from a $150 million deal with a major company years before.
Did you include this in Entrepreneur Solution?
Yes.
Yes. I'm like, this story sounds so familiar. And I read it in your book.
Yeah. And so, but what drove him was purpose and values. He walked away from the deal at the moment he was going to sign, because he sat back and he said, I realize you don't understand my mission. I realize you don't understand my vision, which means that you won't understand my people. And under those circumstances, I can't sell. He literally walked away from the deal. And now, it worked out pretty good for him,
yeah.
$1.2 billion. But here's the thing. He had to go back to these employees and say, hey, they were all prepared. We're going to have a new owner. Our jobs might be in jeopardy. And there were all that uncertainty, all that trust was eroded. And he had to go back and he had to bring them together. And he had to say, look, here's why we did this. Let's get back in the game and let's do it differently. And the way he did it wasn't by offering them more money, but by offering them more purpose. And if you look at Cliff Bar, their bottom line was they had 5 bottom lines, and profit was only one piece of it, and it wasn't the first. People, planet, okay, all these things. So now people were coming to them as customers and as employees because they were actualizing their own values, and they're willing to spend more. They were willing to be more. When the peanut scare came in and all of that type of stuff, the employees came together and said, we'll find a solution, because it wasn't transactional anymore. And I think that we lose sight of that, especially in today's world where everything is so technology driven. The business that learns how to use technology but connect at a deeper level with their customers, their market, and have these kinds of purposeful conversations where the customer believes and the employee believes that not only am I getting a deal on what the solution is, but I'm living true to my values. That's a customer, that's an employee that's going to be there for a long, long time. That's going to drive the bottom line, and now profits become the byproduct of that.
What a powerful story. And I remember reading it in your book and thinking, especially, if he's walking away from a deal because of a greater purpose.
Yeah.
And then, but the beautiful ending of look how that he was authentic in his decision, and a hard decision, but kept his purpose at his North Star, and then how it turned out in the end. That's an incredible story of celebration and growth. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.